You're on.
Good evening, everybody. I'm very excited to present to you a session on streaming services and audio description on behalf of the American Council of the Blind and the Audio Description Project. Before we go too much into the session, I want to talk a little bit about what the Audio Description Project is. The Audio Description Project is an advocacy committee within the American Council of the Blind where we advocate for audio description, and basically we want more of it and quality at audio description. Within the Audio Description Project, we have several subcommittees. We have the Section 508 committee chaired by Pat Sheehan, which deals with audio description in government contracts and things like that. We have the media subcommittee, which I chair, which deals with audio description and streaming, broadcast, television, cable, that sort of thing. We have a BEATI committee, which stands for the Benefits of Audio Description and Education, where we try to educate kids in middle school and high school who are blind and visually impaired to learn about audio description and become young film critics through an essay contest we put on every year. We have a conference subcommittee, which is responsible for creating the content that we're going to talk about audio description at every conference. And we have an award subcommittee, which honors those who have contributed majorly in the field of audio description. The committee is made up of about 25 members. I do not have the time to thank them or the memory to thank them all, so I don't want to do any injustice to anybody, but however, I will recognize those who are staff and contractors within the Audio Description Project. I want to thank Jolyn Bailey Page, who is our audio description coordinator, who keeps the Audio Description Project running smoothly with all of our objectives. The audio description webmaster, Timothy Wynn, who gathers all the information from the 5 cable networks and the 4 broadcast channels that are required to do 87.5 hours of audio description per quarter, and makes sure he gets that information and puts it on the audio description website. And last but not least, Joel Snyder, who founded the Audio Description Project and is our founder and senior consultant for the Audio Description Project. Our website, for those who are interested, we just changed our URL, is adp.acb.org. That's adp.acb.org. It's got a lot of valuable information from what's available on all the streaming services that we'll be talking to tonight, to what's on television on a daily basis, what's playing in the movie theater, what performing arts centers and venues in your state offer audio description, to articles about audio description. So I highly recommend you check it out. Also, for those of you who have registered for the conference, we have put on a lot of information about audio description this week. We started Friday with the Best Picture nomination, the Best Picture winner, of Nomadland, and I want to thank Nomadland, and I want to thank Disney for giving us permission to air that over ACB radio. We did one on Saturday on museums, which was fascinating, and one on performing arts, and we have a few more this week. One will be on the national parks on Wednesday. Tomorrow there will be one on podcast about audio description. And on Thursday, this is the one I'm looking forward to, will be one on how do you write and voice about diversity when it comes to audio description in today's environment. And on Friday, I don't know, some small company named NBC Universal has given us permission to rebroadcast the Olympic opening ceremony with audio description. So please definitely tune into all those sessions. If you missed any of them, all of them, probably with the exception of the Friday opening ceremony, will be available as a podcast. So, streaming services. Why are we doing a panel on streaming services tonight? Well, that's because really all the action is there, even though they're not mandated by the 21st Century Video Accessibility Act, Communications and Accessibility Act. That's where most of the audio description is now being created today. And all the services seem to be fully committed to providing an accessible, inclusive platform for us to view audio descriptions. Tonight, we will be talking to representatives from Apple, Amazon, Disney, Hulu, HBO, Netflix, Paramount Plus, and Peacock. The fact that they're all on this panel tells me two things. One, they are definitely committed to provide an audio description in an accessible manner. And two, that they consider us valuable partners in helping them to achieve their goals of doing so. So that's hugely valuable. And I can't thank all the participants on this panel enough. As a deafblind individual myself with a degree in film, when I started losing my vision and started having difficulty in watching movies and TV, what audio description did was give me my love of film and television back. And when I was a young man dating my girlfriend, who later became my wife, it allowed us to go on dates and simply enjoy each other's company rather than her stressing out whether I was enjoying the movie and trying to overcompensate for my lack of not being involved in the movie. So I can't tell you what a difference it has made in my life. And I want to thank each one of you individually before we get into this. So before we go much further, for those of you who are joining or learning for the first time about audio description, what is audio description? Audio description is a means of describing key visual elements with voicing and narration of time, place, action, gesture, facial expression, key visual elements that you need to interpret and understand the television show or film you are watching. They do this in between gaps in dialogue so that it does not overlap the dialogue, and it is incredibly helpful. You can access with all of these streaming services audio description in a number of ways. One is through your internet browser. You can simply go to whatever the URL of each streaming service is and access and log in and access the content that way. Most, if not all, of these streaming services also have an app that you can watch either on your smart television, your Android device, or tablet, or iPhone, or tablet. And the last way you can access this is through a streaming device, whether it be the Apple TV, the Fire Stick, the Roku, the Chromecast. That's another way to access it. And they all have screen reader technology built into it, and in some cases, magnification and inverse colors for those with low vision. So that's just a quick overview. Now we're going to be talking to each of the panelists individually. And at the end, we're going to talk to them first and let them talk about what they're providing in terms of accessibility in streaming and audio description. At the very, very end, we will allow time for questions. And if you have any questions, you can email them at questions, that's question plural, questions, at acb.org. Again, that's questions at acb.org. First, I would like to start with Thomas Lakowski. He is the Vice President of Accessibility at Comcast. Comcast was the first one to come up with an accessible cable television box with the use of voice guidance. And in 2019, he also developed an assistive remote control for those with Lou Gehrig's disease through an internet application that allowed them to use the remote control with eye movements, which got lots of recognition and was even noted in Time magazine. Tom has worked in his whole career to make the internet, broadcast television, mobile technology accessible to all. Before being at Comcast, he was the director of accessibility at AOL and even worked at the media access group at WGBH in Boston in Caption and descriptive video services. And he worked with a young marketing representative who might be responsible for Tom's success today. I wonder who that is.
Am I supposed to comment on that, Carl, or?
No, I'm just kidding. Tom and I used to be co-workers. I was just trying to be funny, but it didn't come out that way.
No, I thought it was funny. Well, thanks, Carl. And Hello, everybody, and nice to be with you again on this description panel. And I get to talk about streaming services this time, but don't tell anyone. I'm going to throw in a couple of things around the broadcast and cable side, because based on working with me for as long as we did, Carl knows that I never quite follow the rules whenever it comes to it. So first things first, want to talk about Peacock. Peacock is the new streaming service from NBC Universal. It launched officially on July 15th in 2020, so just past its first year. Xfinity customers may recall seeing it show up on X1 and Flex back in April of 2020. It was kind of a pre-launch as we were working through the product. And want to talk a little bit about audio description and where you can find the audio description. So the idea behind Peacock, as I said, is it's NBC Universal's streaming service. It offers a world-class slate of exclusive originals, both scripted and unscripted, on-demand libraries of hit TV shows, and critically acclaimed films from the vaults of Universal Pictures, DreamWorks Animation, Focus Features, and many other Hollywood studios as well. So audio description is something that is very important to Comcast NBC Universal as a whole. As Carl mentioned, today we have hundreds of episodes of original and non-original or repurposed TV and shows and movies available with audio description. And you can access the description through the media player. Currently, we have our 4 major apps are on the Fire TV platform, Vizio Smart TV, Samsung Smart TV, and Xfinity's X1 and Flex products. We are working to improve usability of the iOS app and the Android app and the web app for desktop browsers. So today the best experience is on those 4 TV platforms, and you'll see usability of the remaining apps improve over time. As I mentioned, there are hundreds of episodes today available with audio description, and we will add and continue to add more through the end of this year and beyond. And so the commitment really is to all of the scripted original series certainly will have audio description. Many of the unscripted original series will also have audio description. And then the content that we purchase from other programmers, where that content has audio description, it will be available on our service as well. So some of the highlights to think about here coming up, with the Olympics is a big week for us here at Xfinity and Comcast NBC Universal. The Olympics in Tokyo start on Friday, the 23rd. And we're going to do some interesting programming in partnership with ACB for the closing night of the convention. We're going to actually stream the opening ceremonies with live audio description, the primetime coverage of the opening ceremonies, to the ACB convention platform. So Zoom, ACB radio, and other channels that you might use to participate in the convention. There's going to be an exciting pre-Olympics show that I know Clark Rochfeld and Kim Charlson and others are planning. And so we would urge you to tune in for that and join us for that night. But the exciting part is all of the primetime coverage on NBC of the Olympics will be available with live audio description. This year there's a hashtag NBC Olympics A11Y. So that will get us or get you near real-time access. So if there's something that's not working for you with getting the audio description, etc., use that hashtag, and we will be monitoring that. And as quickly as we can, we'll work to address the feedback And hopefully you won't have any issues and you'll just be able to use that hashtag and talk about audio description on the Olympics this year, provided by Descriptive Video Works. So that's the opening closing ceremonies plus the primetime coverage on NBC, the broadcast network. Peacock is going to stream the closing ceremonies with live audio description, plus the men's basketball gold medal game as well. So there's some coverage there coming up. You can also get the Olympics content with audio description at NBCOlympics.com. And there's a media player there. You'll have two links. One will start the show without description. One will start the show with description. So you have many different ways. And of course, on Xfinity, you can check it out through X1 and Flex or through the Stream mobile app or web app. So that's kind of the update for now from us on the streaming side. Peacock's off to a great start. Hundreds of episodes available with audio description today, more on the way, and it'll continue to grow over time. Big focus on adding audio description to scripted and unscripted original series, plus other content that we purchase and acquire from other partners. The platforms, again, are currently available, and the easiest way to get at the content is on the X1 and Flex platform, Samsung Smart TV, Vizio Smart TV, and Fire TV. And then, of course, all of the Olympics information that I just provided. If you have any questions, happy to take them at the end of the panel. I'll turn it back to Carl.
Well, Tom, the rest of the folks have to wait to the end, but you don't get off that easy with me. I do have a few questions.
So, I have to go.
There's a free service and a paid service of Peacock, correct?
Yeah, there is a premium service, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how much audio description is available on the free service versus the premium service? Is there a difference?
It's really about the advertising, which is kind of, the premium service, obviously less ads, those types of things. So all of the content that I mentioned would be available in both the premium and the free service.
Okay. And how much is the premium service?
I need to get back to you on that one, Carl. I think it's $5 a month, but let me double check that.
Well, I just really wanted to make people more aware that the free service has ads and the premium service has either less or no ad, correct? And they both offer audio description. That's all. I just wanted the people to know that.
Right. And Xfinity customers are getting the premium as part of their X1 and Flex service today.
And you also offer for internet-only customers, don't you also offer an accessible streaming device?
So that's the Flex product that I've talked about, right? And so that is really where we're becoming the aggregator of aggregators for content. And so, it is no additional charge, and you get all of the different apps that we have on the platform, everything from Peacock to Hulu to Netflix to HBO Max to Spotify, Pandora, etc. Now, accessibility of some of those apps does vary. Of course, everyone on this panel who represents those companies is making their apps accessible. But that's no different than downloading an app from one of the mobile app stores. You just want to, we don't control, obviously we strongly encourage partners to make their apps accessible, but it is the responsibility of the app provider themselves to make their experience as accessible as possible.
And I'm only going to ask you this because it's going to come up with another vendor on another streaming service on this panel near the end. Currently, in terms of audio description, are you using any text-to-speech at all for the voice of the narration?
Currently, it's the traditional method of adding or producing audio descriptions. So it has a human narrator, but certainly we are committed to innovation and would look to, in the future, find ways of making audio description as efficient and widely available as possible. And, text to speech could be one solution that's pursued. I think, we've talked about this in the past, Carl. I think, there are ways that industry has to look to be able to deliver more content faster. And certainly, technology solutions like text to speech may help there.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Paramount Plus, who is also one of the newer players they've actually provided audio description for shows, their originals, such as Star Trek Discovery and Picard, but recently they've expanded their commitment to audio description, and that they are now adding audio description to many of their movies and shows from CBS, and they have expanded their catalog greatly. Martha Heller is the Vice President of CBS Viacom, the Vice President of Governmental Affairs and Regulatory Council for the CBS Viacom. She represents CBS Viacom in dealing with the federal government agencies such as the FCC. Welcome, Martha. Oh, wait a minute. And before that, she worked for the FCC as Media Bureau Chief and also as a leader in the enforcement division, and also acted as an advisor to Commissioner Clyburn.
Thank you, Carl. That was nice. And thank you for including me on this panel. It's really nice to be here with everyone tonight. So I'll start with just a little bit of background about Paramount Plus, since as Carl mentioned, it is the newest streaming service on this panel tonight, at least in its current iteration. So Paramount Plus was launched just this year in March. So it's been in existence just about over 4 months now. But it's important to realize that Paramount Plus was launched as a rebranding and a significant expansion of our predecessor streaming service, which was CBS All Access. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. So with the merger of Viacom and CBS, which was completed just at the very end of 2019, there was really a great opportunity to expand the streaming service with content from a wider variety of our brands and services across the company. So Paramount Plus today continues, of course, to include great content from CBS, but also with a number of our other prominent brands, such as, for example, MTV and Nickelodeon, and movies from Paramount Pictures as well. And so with all of that, it includes an expansive library of original content, which, as Carl mentioned, and I'll touch on that a little bit more in just a minute, and existing shows from the library of our other brands across the company, of course, the movies, and as well as some live sports and breaking news. So it's a really comprehensive service. And the last thing that I'll mention, just because it's a little bit of a unique aspect of Paramount Plus, which is that it also enables subscribers, if depending on which plan they choose, it enables subscribers to also stream their local CBS affiliate stations as well on the service. So that's Paramount Plus and what it has in terms of content generally. Turning to accessibility, I'll say that the Paramount Plus development team has been hard at work incorporating accessibility features and with a large emphasis on audio description. So I really appreciate, Carl, what you said about your recognition that we've really expanded the library of options that include description. So I'll talk about that a little bit more. I want to kind of break it down into 3 different categories. The first of which is our original programming. This has been, where we've really placed a big priority in terms of audio description. And as of right now, basically all of the original shows and original content on Paramount Plus has audio description available. So that was a goal of the company to make pretty much all of that accessible to the blind and low vision community. And it includes, as of right now, about 26 different TV shows that are original and exclusive to Paramount Plus. So including, Carl, well, of course you mentioned the ever popular Star Trek content. So there's this Star Trek Discovery and 2 other series that are original to Paramount Plus. Some other salient examples include the show Why Women Kill. There's the show Evil, The Good Fight, which is a spin-off of The Good Wife from CBS, and also some great kids content in there that stems from Nickelodeon. So there's originals, for example, among many others, Rugrats and Camp Coral. So this is an area where we're going to, we're continuing commitment as we create more original shows for the platform. Our goal is to continue to have all of that have description included. And then the second bucket that I wanted to mention is CBS content. And I hope that many of you know that the CBS Broadcast Network has had a really particularly strong commitment to accessibility and especially to audio description over many years. And an example of that I think is a good illustration is that, there was a long period when the FCC's original, then called video description rules were struck down in federal court, and there were no rules on the books for, nearly a decade. And throughout that period, CBS continued on a voluntary basis to offer described programming on the network. And so that is something that is a great baseline for Paramount Plus as well, and gives us a great way to expand the library of content that's available. So currently, all of the CBS content from the current seasons that is being described on over-the-air TV are also described on Paramount Plus. And in addition to that, there is a good library of content from prior seasons that were described for over-the-air TV that are also available with description on Paramount Plus. And I just want to emphasize here that this is all very much a work in progress for us. And there's definitely more to come. There's going to, as I mentioned, be a continued commitment to the original content, as well as, a lot more that we're looking to add from our existing library that has audio description. So definitely be on the lookout for more to come. And then last bucket that I wanted to talk about for a minute is Paramount Movies, because there's some good news to share here as well. So currently there's over 100 movies, Paramount movies, available on Paramount Plus that also have audio description available. And again, this is a work in progress for us. We are looking to add a lot more on a continuing basis. So there's already, dozens more that are in the queue to be added to Paramount Plus. And just while we're talking about movies, I did want to call out one example in particular, which I think is just a good one, and also a timely one, which is A Quiet Place Part 2, which is a Paramount movie that just became available on Paramount Plus last week after it completed its run in the theater. And so now both the original A Quiet Place Part 1, I guess, if you call it that, and Part 2 are available with description on Paramount Plus, and really with description that's received some good recognition, I think, for the high quality of the acting and the writing. I watched it just this past weekend with the audio description running, and I'm certainly not as much of an expert as many of you are, but I thought it really came across well and was good quality. And the other reason why I just wanted to call out the example of A Quiet Place 2, Part 2, is because, beyond the accessibility features in the movie itself, it's also gotten some great recognition for its representation of disability within the storyline. And in particular, the movie received just recently the Ruderman Family Foundation's Seal of Authentic Representation, which is an award that recognizes movies and TV shows that feature actors with disabilities. And so anyone who's familiar with these movies at all will know that this is for the major role that Millicent Simmons, who is herself a deaf actress, plays in the movies. And so, I just think it's a really good example because beyond the commitment that it shows to making our content accessible to people with disabilities, just from a pure diversity standpoint, the importance of representing people with disabilities within our content itself. So if you can stomach a scary movie, I definitely recommend that you check it out. If you can't stomach a scary movie, then definitely don't. But it's a great movie. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover on the content side. Just from the technical side, I also just wanted to make one point, which is that thanks to some really hard work from our development team in these early stages, Paramount Plus is available with audio description on the full slate of platforms and devices on which it's available. So basically, anywhere that you can, any device on which you can access Paramount Plus, you can get the audio description enabled as well. Thank you. And Carl, you gonna go easier on me than Tom, or?
Well, I do have a couple of questions. So first of all, you mentioned that if I were a Paramount Plus premium customer, that I can also watch CBS being streamed live. Is there anything on your roadmap to also carry over the SAP signal so I could watch a show live with audio description?
Oh, okay. Well, I have to check into that. So
just a thought. No, I knew the answer was probably not right now, but maybe that might be something to put on the roadmap.
Okay.
If you're streaming your network live that already has audio description, why not also enable it for us to watch it with audio description?
Okay, I guess that is an excellent question, Carl. I guess I was, that's one thing I haven't looked at, and I was assuming that that's the way it worked, that all of the accessibility features that are available when you're watching over the air.
It may be, but I haven't heard so.
Yeah. So are you saying you just don't know? I'm assuming that it is enabled already, but I'm happy to check into that. That's
okay. Thank you. you also offer a free service and a premium service, just like Peacock, is that correct?
No, we are slightly different in that we have two subscription-only tiers. One that is for $4.99, since I know you're going to ask me about the price next, so I think I've got that. One that is $4.99 a month, and that is similar to Peacock. That is an ad-supported version of the service. And also it does not include the full live streams of the affiliates. And then the premium service does include the live streams, and that one is $9.99 a month.
And again, since I asked this to Tom, currently at this time, I believe you only use human voice narrators. Are there any plans on the roadmap to potentially use text-to-speech?
Well, that's correct. Right now we don't, and we don't have any immediate plans to do so. But I would say that my answer to that is similar to what Tom said, which is that it is something that we're looking at, and in part because not as so much as a replacement for the live voice version of description. But as a way to possibly expand the amount of description that we have available on something like Paramount Plus. It's the quality is improving. It's certainly quicker than doing the traditional way, and it's less expensive. So I think it is, something that we're just looking at down the road as something that, potentially could offer more content with description available.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Allison Smith from Netflix, who is the Global Innovation Manager.
Globalization Innovation Manager.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time remembering everybody's bio tonight, so I'm going to make it up as I go along. No, the only thing I can remember is that you were responsible for providing, you came up with a quality control process for subtitling, which helped your globalization initiatives around the world. You have a degree in neurolinguistics, and that you formerly worked at National Geographic as head of the translation department. I know there were a lot of things in there about systematic approaches and quality control and quantitative analysis, but I can't remember how they fit to your bio. So, but you're basically oversee the accessibility components of Netflix. Netflix was the first streaming service to do audio description, so I want to recognize them for doing that back in 2016 with the first show, I believe, was Daredevil, and they've been at it for a while. And so, and I read somewhere recently that as much as 33% of your content has audio description.
Thanks so much, Carl, for that introduction. You did a great job remembering all of it. I don't know the percentage of the content that we have available, but I do know that it's over 17,000 hours of content now available with audio description, which is something that we're immensely proud of. And that does, I think that volume is a result of the fact that we've been working on this for years now. We started, I think, in 2013, Netflix launched its first original series, and that's when we really got serious about producing our own content, managing post-production processes and distributing that content ourselves. And so it was back all the way in 2014 that we started working on how we were going to support audio description, making sure that we had all the necessary pipelines in place. We were working with the best vendors and talent and studios out there in the world to create a really high-class experience, high quality experience for audio description. And we spent a lot of time working with folks in the ACB even, or other advocacy groups and folks within the community to really understand what audio description is, how it should work, what makes up a really good quality experience, and how we can make sure that we're getting that. And so we set up things like QC processes, We've created our audio description style guide, which is publicly available on our website and even has a feedback form at the bottom of it. So that's really a living document that sets the expectations of what we're looking for within audio description. And lately we've been starting to talk about some interesting new conversations about how do we make sure that our audio description is inclusive and describes race in a way that's appropriate and informative, and you know, doesn't hit on sensitivities and things like that. And so that's very much a living document, something that we update from time to time and really use to set our vendors and all of the talent that works on creating these assets up for success. So back in 2015, I think it was, we launched, unfortunately, we launched Daredevil, a show that features a blind superhero without audio description, but we had been working really hard behind the scenes to create it. So that was a big learning moment for us to realize that we were sort of waiting to try and have a lot of content to put up all at once and make a splashy entrance into covering audio description, but heard very loud and clearly from the community that this title absolutely should have audio description. And so we went ahead and launched that after that feedback. And then from there have really been just pushing into this, again, listening to feedback from the community, evaluating the different pieces of how our business works around accessibility to make sure that we have been constantly improving this. So at that point in time, we started with about 100 shows. And like I said, we are now up to about 17,000 hours of audio description. And we're also proud that we're doing that in many languages, so that folks around the world are able to access audio description. I think in the US, we have a long history of prioritizing accessibility, and we want to make sure that we're using everything that we've learned within the English-speaking markets to help support global accessibility. Let's see. We've also been working really hard to make sure that our actual product, the app, or you know, the website that we use is also accessible, that it's of course compatible with voice readers, but not only that it should be accessible, but it should be a really nice experience that you should be able to search for content seamlessly, find content that has audio description, select it very easily, and all of that. So we've been working on improving that and testing and iterating throughout our product. We've done things like added an audio description tag and logo to the description page, which has all the information about a show or a movie, to make it really clear that that's there. We also added a gallery, a catalog of all the titles that have audio description, so you can quickly navigate there. And then we've also added functionality to our search page, so you can search things like movies with audio description and get those results populated very quickly. And so giving lots of ways to find the content and then engage with it in a really rich way is something that we're constantly striving towards. Let's see, I think, so yeah, that's where we are today. I think we have a fairly accessible product. We have a lot of content that is accessible, but of course, we're always continuously looking for ways to continue to improve our accessibility, to improve the overall experience. And one of the main ways that we've done that in the past and will continue doing that is by getting feedback from this community. And so there's a number of ways that you can reach out to Netflix. I'll list 3 of them here. The first one I think is, if as you're watching a content, you notice like a show or a movie, you notice something that isn't quite right, we have a report a problem feature right in the playback experience where you can navigate there and you can report an issue about that content. And we do monitor that. We update assets, we change things and fix problems through that mechanism. We also have our customer service where you can either chat or talk on the phone to resolve any issues that you might be having with your device, or if you just don't know how to use something. That's a great way to get those kinds of issues resolved. And then we also have a corporate site, which is netflix.com/accessibility, where you can give kind of more general feedback about the accessibility features on Netflix. So that's another great way to get in touch. Oh, and one fourth one, we also have a lot of articles online. If you're just wanting to troubleshoot on your own, that's a really great way to go about that. And then let's see, Carl, I know you're probably going to ask me about text to speech. So
whatever gave you that idea?
It's a pattern forming, so I will address that. I think, again, we're also really interested in any type of technology that can expand coverage and increase accessibility. And so it's something that's pretty intriguing for us. I think the one thing we want to really investigate and take our time with is what's that experience like? Do members view it as a degraded experience, or does it actually have some advantages? You know, there's sort of a hypothesis that synthetic voice might actually be beneficial when it's used in conjunction with another feature that we introduced recently, which was the playback speed controls. So if you're listening to content faster, the synthetic voice might actually be easier to listen to than the human voice recordings. And so that's something we're kind of looking into. What are those trade-offs and how do we navigate making sure we're protecting that overall experience while trying to expand our coverage? So lots to come there.
So you said a couple of things. One, you mentioned that you allow everybody to filter for title by audio description, and I just want to point that out because I don't remember if any of the other services do, but I would hope that all the services on this panel tonight consider that as an option, so that when, for instance, I won't watch anything that's not audio described. So if I land on something and it's not audio described, I'm not going to watch it. So it would be nice if I had an ability to either filter by audio description, the blindness community, I mean, or within the description, just like you say, closed captions available if you also said audio description. And I'm not talking about Netflix specifically, I'm just talking about all the streaming services, as you mentioned. The other thing I've noticed, and I want to commend Netflix for doing this, that as I listen, I am starting to know which narrators are who. And I've heard at least 2 blind and visually impaired narrators. And I want to commend you for having hired blind people in the creative process, which is meant for them. So that's to be commended, and I hope that that's something all the streaming services here consider, whether it be hiring them to voice, whether it be hiring them to edit, or whether it be hiring them to be quality control consultants to look at the writing or whatever. So that's just something as we create a more inclusive world. I also read recently, and I haven't had a chance to see this, but as a deaf-blind individual myself, in that I have a dual sensory loss that I'm blind and hard of hearing, I thought I read that Netflix was creating transcripts that had both closed captioning and audio description in it. Is that true?
That is true. I believe it's only on a couple of titles. I know Crip Camp was one of them, and I think there's one other that's not coming to mind right away, but we did put a place on our product where you can access the, I think we're calling it the descriptive transcript, which is, yeah, like a combination of the captions. They're a little bit actually more verbatim than the captions because we don't have the same timing constraints that we would with subtitles or captions. So they actually have like the full dialogue in there. And I think even with the descriptions, we were able to pull those out and make them more descriptive because again, we don't face the same constraints of fitting the descriptions in between the dialogue. So again, trying to make sure that if we're going to provide an experience, it's going to be the best that it possibly can be given the medium and the format. But that is true that we're starting to work on different, adding different aspects like assets like descriptive transcripts.
Well, I'm just speaking of the person who is a member of the deafblind community, and I'm relatively in terms of low on the deafblind community in that I can still access film and television. If any of the folks on this panel created those types of transcripts, can you imagine giving access for the very first time in people's lives to entertainment content so that they know what other people are talking about? That's just something to think about. And I know I'm throwing in my own personal list as I talk to each one of you, but that's just something to think about moving forward for all of the panelists on this committee, because the deafblind are excluded from so much because it's hard. It's easy to fix it if you're just deaf or hard of hearing or just blind, but when you're both, it's definitely more challenging and time consuming. So that's just something to consider. So that's all I have for now. At the end, I have some general questions for all of you based on your comments, but for now, that's it. Next, we're going to go to Hulu. And Melanie Goodman is the lead digital supply chain specialist. She has been with Hulu for about 9 years, and she is in charge of all accessible content for Hulu. She is also the founder of the A11Y Hulu group, which is a resource group for people and employees with disabilities within Hulu. And before that, she was a live caption writer for Cornell University. And for those who don't know what A11Y is, because we've mentioned that a couple of times, Tom mentioned it and I just did, it's a Twitter handle often used, and A11Y stands for accessibility because between the letter A and Y, there are 11 characters total in the word. There are 13 characters total, but there are 11 between the A and Y. So welcome, Melanie. Why don't you tell us about Hulu and audio description?
Sure. Thanks for having me. It's exciting to be here for my first year and with all of my colleagues in this accessibility space. So our mission at Hulu is to empower everyone to discover, share, and celebrate the stories that connect us. And ensuring that content is accessible is critical to that mission. So over the past few years, our team has done a tremendous amount of work, both to expand our library of audio described content and also to increase the accessibility of the platform at large for screen reader users, to improve access to movies and television for the blind and low vision community. So I wanted to call out a couple just general accessibility improvements as well that we've made around color contrast, text legibility, and focus states, all of which make it easier and more intuitive to navigate everything from sign up to account management to watching your favorite show on the Hulu app. And then within the realm of audio description, it is available both on the Hulu website as well as on all of our applications across mobile and living room devices. So anywhere that Hulu is available, audio description is available. Currently, it's supported just in English and through a stereo mix. And you can actually filter on Hulu as well through a hub where all of our described content is in a single place. So the web version of that, I'll give you the URL if you want to go to it directly, is www.hulu.com/hub/audio-description. And there is an equivalent hub in all of the other applications where you can access the audio description. Currently, we've published over 1,800 episodes and movies with descriptive audio, and that consists of over 140 unique series and film titles. And those include some of our signature Hulu originals like The Handmaid's Tale and Little Fires Everywhere and Run, as well as next day TV like The Bachelorette.
Tell them about Run, because that's interesting.
Yeah. So Run is a thriller that's a Hulu original that features a wheelchair user as one of the lead characters. And similarly to Quiet Place, if you can stomach something with a little bit of scariness to it, recommend. We're really proud of the attention that it's received around really authentic disability representation, featuring an actress who is disabled herself.
Yeah, that was amazing that you actually thought out a wheelchair user to play the part.
Yeah, that's certainly an important component to the representation, is making sure that it's authentic to the experience, whether through Run or through Rami, which I recommend as well. Other content that we have, say going back to next day, we have Bachelorette, we have Snowfall. On the movie side, you mentioned Nomadland already. We also have one of my favorites, Pick of the Litter, which if you want to watch a film about guide dogs is just absolutely delightful. And we're working really closely with our partners across Disney at ABC and Fox to add descriptive audio for hundreds of episodes of licensed content over the next few months, including some kids titles like Doc McStuffins and Gravity Falls. So trying to make sure that we have great coverage there for a little bit of everything that you could possibly want. Going to beat you to the punch on this question. In regard to Hulu originals, we currently only accept audio description that are read by human voice actors. So we don't take auto-generated or speech-to-text at this time. And we do try to make sure that we have consistency in our voice talent across episodes and seasons of a series to the extent possible. Similarly, as far as consistency goes, once you've set up descriptive audio on any of your Hulu apps, it'll persist across that device. So if you set it up once on the web, anything that's available with descriptive audio will default to that going forward and make it really easy for you to make sure that that experience is ready to go. And we also have some content that's available for offline downloading. And if a show or movie is downloadable and has audio description, you can go ahead and download the video with that setting enabled as well. And then I wanted to call out that we do have a few different places that you can get help if you need accessing or have feedback on any of our audio described contents. Of course, our general support aliases are always available and very responsive, but we do have a dedicated support alias that is really intended for screen reader issues. But I've gotten sort of an insider tip that if you have issues or feedback about descriptive audio, it'll get you to the right place. And get you into the good hands to provide assistance there. So that is screen-reader-feedback@hulu.com. And the folks there will make sure that, if you have any questions about the descriptive audio experience or content availability or anything like that, they can give you a hand. And we do also have a lot of support articles as well that can walk you through just how to access content across all of your devices. If you want to run through that yourself and get yourself set up. Hopefully that covered most of it, but I'm sure you will still have some questions.
I do. So because Hulu is a conglomerate of a lot of sources, there are currently 9 entities required under the CVAA to provide 87.5 hours of audio description, the 4 broadcast networks and the 5 top cable rated networks. You have most of those 9 entities on your service. Is Hulu trying to develop partnership with those entities? Because your catalog would explode exponentially if you also got the audio description packet at the same time you got the show delivered.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are working with all of our partners across networks to try to get audio description wherever it's available. There are sometimes challenges in terms of just content delivery with those different partners that we're continuing to navigate to make sure that we can get those moving forward. But those are conversations that are always happening. And whenever we bring in new partners, we're continuing to have those conversations early to let folks know that we're interested in getting content wherever it's available.
The other thing is, you also have, if you have the premium service, you also have live television components. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Martha. Have there been potentially any ideas to put on the roadmap to carry over the SAP for those who are watching it live?
It's a good question. I am more involved in the video on demand side, so I don't want to speak definitively to that. I'm not aware of anything right now, but certainly I think that would be a feature that we would want to consider if not doing so already.
I'll put it on my wish list.
I will make a wish list just for you.
Okay. You also mentioned that currently that everything's in stereo in English. Are there plans to maybe do? And I would ask this of all the streaming services, had I thought of it. The blindness community would love to see audio description at the same high level quality that the primary audio is, say, surround sound with Dolby Atmos. And I'm not, you don't have to answer that. I'm just, because you already said it isn't at this time. But I would ask all the streaming services that's something to consider, because what audience more than the blind audience, which is very audio based, and that's how they get the information, would enjoy true surround sound with an audio description mix. So that's just something I would ask all the streaming services to consider as we move forward. Okay, well, thank you. I enjoyed Run. I saw Run because I particularly thought that movie out when it came out, because I knew that you hired a young actress in a wheelchair purposely. And boy, I thought my mother was tough, not as tough as the mother in that film. Wow. So that was a good movie. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Glad you enjoyed it.
Next, we have HBO. We have Andrew Larkin, who is the senior manager of accessibility. They have 10 years of experience working in the media field in cable. He might have worked with someone else on this panel at one time in helping making entertainment accessible. Andrew is also very much involved in making the workforce more accessible. And he has had a long history in making digital media accessible for all. And HBO is one of the newest streaming services to offer audio description as well. Welcome aboard, Andrew.
Thank you so much. And thank you for that lovely introduction. It's funny that you had mentioned before that you had worked with Tom, because I may have as well. It just goes to show how tight-knit of a community we can ultimately be. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you all. And it's really a pleasure to be here with so many other the streaming providers. For those of you that don't know much about HBO Max, HBO Max is the successor to HBO's HBO Go and HBO Now service. And really, it was an effort to kind of bring even more great content to even more people. It's really about storytelling, and it's really about focusing on the experience of our viewers and making sure that they're getting to see some of the best work that they possibly can see. HBO Max does bring together content from HBO, from Warner Brothers, from DC, from Turner Classic Movies, Cartoon Network, and a lot more. So there's a lot of really great content that's available. We have a really great team of people. And I really want to take a moment to mention that among those people, so I can speak a lot to what's going on with HBO and HBO Max. Anything that's really about Warner Media at large, there's a wonderful person by the name of Janet Ritz, who runs our Accessibility Center of Excellence for Warner Media. And I work with her very closely with her, and she's an excellent person, to answer questions about some of the other products that are within the Warner Media umbrella. It's a really exciting time for HBO Max. Not only have we launched audio descriptions, not only have we really, started making some great improvements to the overall accessibility of the experience. We've also just we've started offering a tiered plan so that we offer an ad experience for $9.99 a month, and we offer the ad-free experience for $14.99 a month. This really has allowed us to bring the quality entertainment to even more people. We've also and this is very exciting, launched in the LATAM market, the Latin America market, in 39 regions, and plans this year to actually extend that to even more in Europe. So we are growing internationally. I think the big thing that's exciting about HBO Max is that over the last year, since December, we have been releasing blockbuster movies same day as theater release on HBO Max. And one of the things that I think is really exciting about this is that all of those films have audio description tracks. And since we turned audio description on, all of the same day as theater releases have released with audio description tracks. So this means that our customers who are at home, who are looking forward to seeing films like Judas and the Black Messiah, Godzilla vs. Kong, In the Heights, Space Jam, which just actually launched this past week, can enjoy that content with audio description. We, as a company, have committed to delivering a certain amount of content with audio description, and we stood up for that, and we're going to continue to do that year over year. We also are looking into, now that we've expanded into international markets, we are looking into also introducing audio described tracks in other languages, so that our customers in Latin America, in Europe, can also experience this content in the language of their choice. Currently, we support audio descriptions on iOS and Android and all of our web platforms. And we've also enabled audio description on additional platforms, including Samsung, Xfinity X1 and Flex, Android TV, Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV, and also on DirecTV devices. And, for us, it's really been a focus on making sure that we're providing really a great experience for our customers. One of the things that was really cool is how I was kind of excited because we had the audio description tracks for In the Heights, which is a musical. And there was an effort to actually make sure that we were creating that inclusive experience because, it is such an audible experience, but, there's so much movement and action. I was actually watching one of the classics the other day, Wizard of Oz, which is also, again, very musical. And just seeing some of the interesting ways that we were able to insert audio descriptions. For example, being able to use lulls in the vocalization, ducking the music when we're doing the audio description, and even inserting audio description in repeated refrains and verses, so that we can actually accommodate both the experience and enjoyment of the music, but also really kind of give people a sense of that action. To kind of head off your question about the text to speech, we actually strive to really have our content voice acted. First and foremost, we're an entertainment company, and our value is really to create great entertainment. So it makes sense. You've asked questions about whether or not we actually do provide content in surround sound. All of our audio descriptions tracks are currently in stereo only, but there has been internal discussions to actually increase that. Also, whenever content, because we own a lot of the content, if that content ever does actually, go elsewhere, that we're really committed to making sure that content is being advertised as audio descriptions, because I think that's, really the important part, right? Is to make sure that this content is actually, that when we are making content available, that we're also, highlighting the fact that it has the audio description. And we're really committed. I mean, we've come a long way, since we've launched, but we're really committed in trying to get even better. And to that point, we've really invested in making available to our customers points of contact through our customer service center. They have received training in accessibility and audio description, and are capable of answering questions pertaining to accessibility and audio description. And we also have our help site, help.hbomax.com, which does provide a lot of questions and self-help documentations to help assist users in being able to solve common accessibility problems. And we're always updating that. That site is accessible via screen reader and keyboard access. So that is available, and there is an opportunity to do live chat through that portal as well. Overall, HBO Max has really made some really great strides. I'm really proud to work with a company. We have, like I mentioned before, some really great talent. As a matter of fact, HBO Max is hiring if you are looking for an opportunity to work in the industry. And we do strive to bring in people with disabilities. You mentioned that, I work a lot with equity and inclusion within the company. It's near and dear to my heart. And, that is something that is out there. Really, we're constantly launching new content with tracks available. And I think the thing that's been most exciting to watch is the quality. I remember when I was watching Godzilla versus Kong for the first time. I'm a sucker for monster movies. And I was watching it. And for those of you that aren't aware, there's one of the characters. There's a little girl who is deaf. And she uses sign language. And so the first thing that you might think to yourself is, how do you handle the sign language? And I watched it. And what we did is we actually hired a different voice actor to voice this little girl's signs. And the signs of the other woman in the series that actually was signing to her. That to me was something that I was really proud of. I think that it really indicates, that it's not just enough to narrate. It's really about creating that entertainment experience that I think is really, really important. And I mean, I will say, I've watched all of the Snyderverse films and, take them or leave them in the quality. But I actually was amazed personally because, Batman versus Superman, which is, a cheesy film. When you turn on the audio description tracks, you end up with having this comic book style narration that really adds to the experience. And now we have people, who don't rely on technology like audio descriptions, who are turning them on and enjoying these experiences as well. And I think that means a lot. We have a lot of work to do, and we're going to keep working on it, but I am really, really excited about where we're going and looking forward to the future.
Great. So Warner Media,
Yes,
which is part of HBO Max, or HBO Max is part of Warner Media Group,
correct.
covers TBS, TNT, TMC, Turner Classic Movies, TCM, excuse me.
Mhm.
And a lot of those, at least one of them currently part of the CVAA, one of them previously was, and I know that when I was at WGBH, I probably described several dozen movies for Turner Classic Movies. Are you going back and trying to get old titles that were previously audio described to bring over to your streaming service?
That one is not something that I can actually speak to personally.
Okay.
I will.
Something that I'm bringing up. That's all.
Yeah, no, of course. But from an HBO Max perspective, our goal is to continue to get as much audio description content, as possible.
So, have you thought about sharing your files with HBO so that when they, like, let's say you do your HBO originals or whenever, when they air on HBO, that they also stream with broadcast with audio description? Is that something that might be on the roadmap?
It's another thing that I can't speak to. You're asking me the good questions, and I wish I could say more to stuff that's happening on the broadcast side. Because it's a really great point. But like I said, there's these audio description tracks there. We definitely, put them out there for anyone who picks up our original content. An interesting thing that I actually wanted to mention real quick, you had talked about the availability of finding audio description content. One thing I wanted to add that I was very, very excited about is that we were actually able to add a category for audio description. So if you go to the HBO Max application, the very first button that you'll find in the interface is a browse button. And if you activate that, it brings up a list of different categories. And in that list, there is a category for audio description content. You can find that on our web and mobile platforms, and we'll be rolling that out for our other platforms as well.
That's great. And thank you. As a new player on the scene, you've already done an incredible amount of work. And just because I asked a few challenging questions doesn't mean to all of you on this panel, I am not overwhelmed with gratitude what all of you are trying to do in terms of accessibility and audio description. I'm just mentioning things to think of to improve audio description among all of us on this panel from a blindness perspective. All right, I'm trying to remember who is next alphabetically. I believe that's Mirka Pavlikova from Disney. She is the manager of library services and technical services. She has been with Disney for 9 years. She is in charge of audio description for Disney, Fox features, Disney Plus originals, and others. And when I read that she's in charge of the library, I tell you, I got goosebumps because as a film buff, I can't imagine having access to the original 32 prints with those beautiful cells of those animations from the early Walt Disney days. Wow, that must be amazing to see. So, Mirka, why don't you tell us a little bit about Disney Plus?
Hi, well, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm here representing the Walt Disney Company. I work in our library and technical department. I primarily look after audio description files for Disney and now former Fox features, as well as Disney Plus originals and others. Disney has been creating AD for over 2 decades. And every time I say this sentence, basically Toy Story 2 pops up in my head, as that was one of the first titles that went out theatrically for us with audio description included. And this was in 1999, so it's 20-something years ago. And since then, we created hundreds and hundreds of files. So yeah, imagine that library is genuinely huge. Disney Plus launched in November of 2019, so it's slightly under 2 years old. We launched with audio description already available, but prior to that, we went through a set of very extensive evaluations of existing files to ensure quality prior to servicing. And we basically evaluate them from everything, from writing perspective, voicing, to all the way to mixing, and basically way more. So because we have hundreds and hundreds of files, the project is very extensive and it's still going. Still review and evaluate and fix and upgrade and update files all the time, because we want to make sure that audio description enhances the content that we stream and it leaves a lasting impact on everyone. One other thing I would like to mention is the fact that we also have foreign audio description available on Disney Plus, which includes German, French, Parisian, Brazilian, Portuguese, and we just added Latin Spanish to quite a few titles. I believe it was Cruella, Black Widow, and Luca. I think you met Mitch Ginsburg last year, and one of the latest enhancements is that comes out of Mitch's team is that they worked on adding audio description and CC or closed caption icons to the front page of a title, so consumers can tell right away whether a title has an audio description or not without actually clicking into the title. Disney Plus supports mobile devices, web browsers, game consoles, you name it. It includes audio description if the title has audio description. And if you have any issues or if you have any comments, you can also reach us on phone. It's 888-905-7888. And we also have a live chat option. And it is on help.disneyplus.com. And to also cut off the text-to-speech question, we have not ventured out that way. We don't have plans to do so. It is definitely something lucrative to look at. However, we have not ventured out that way just yet.
So, Mirka, one of the things that set Disney apart is when they launched was that they went back and audio described your extensive back catalog. For instance, Steamboat Willie, which is, the launch of Mickey Mouse, and Snow White, which is the first full featured length animated movie. I saw a lot of Disney movies as a kid in the deaf school, because at that time you couldn't go to the movies or watch television because there were no captions available. So they actually had, the Department of Education at the time actually had a program where they lent movies to deaf clubs and schools in canisters. And at 6 years old, the nun noticed I was into watching the movies and taught me how to load to projector with 16 millimeter film. And it was then I fell in love with film. I was 6 years old, responsible for loading the projector, rewinding the film and putting it back in the canister. But I am convinced with all of you on this panel who also oversee captioning, that the caption and subtitles taught me how to read, write, and talk. And for that, I will be grateful. I just want to, now, what was I going to ask you? There was a question before I went on my rambling monologue. I was going to ask you a question, but I can't think of it right now. Oh, I know. Regarding Mandalorian, when I watched Mandalorian recently, there were a lot of terminology that I never heard used in the show itself. So did the content creators work with the audio describer writer to create the audio description on the show?
So that is very brand specific. Because Disney is segregated into brands, you've got Pixar, you've got Marvel, you've got Lucasfilms. Every single brand is very heavily involved with audio description, and they very much review the scripts. So to answer your question, yes, they were working together with Lucasfilms to make sure that the terminology is correct.
And that was kind of cool because I remember watching it with a fellow Star Wars geek, and he's like, how did they know that's what it's called? Even I, so that was interesting that you actually had consultants involved in the, the production folks involved in the creation of the audio description. And I think that enhanced the audio description. So that's just something for the other panelists to think about as well.
It is also, just to let you know, every brand is very heavily involved with audio description scripts. They very much review everything to make sure that everything is correctly described. And every single brand takes a lot of pride in it. And I want to specifically call out Pixar because Pixar is one of the brands that puts so much love into audio description. You can absolutely feel it. Toy Stories and all of the Pixar shorts, as well as Pixar features and everything that goes on Disney Plus, is very much reviewed by Pixar. They also choose their own voices because they like the way certain voices carry on with the content. So that's another little touch that certain brands put on audio description.
And I don't, because I so appreciate the work that Disney's doing, I'm just going to bring up something that many of us in the blind community do wish Disney would do, which is to read the credits of the film. And I know that this has been brought to your attention, but sometimes it's frustrating for me as a film buff not to know who's actually starring in the movie. And I'm not asking for an answer. I'm just saying that that's something maybe the blind community would like to potentially see the credits, and maybe even all. I don't know that any of these streaming services maybe even read the credit of who wrote, which I know you guys do read the credit of who wrote it and who produced the audio description, because if we see quality audio description, we're probably going to seek that out wherever we see that, just like certain people would follow quality directors, actors, actresses. It's the same thing for us in the world of audio description. Well, Mirka, thank you. I'm a huge fan of Disney. I just went and saw the movie that came out last week, and I can't even remember the name of it right now.
Black Widow?
Thank you. Yes. It was the first time my wife let me out in public since the pandemic started, but she didn't go with me. She was not about to watch a movie about a female superhero, but I enjoyed it and I had a blast. So thank you very much. Next, we have Apple, who Sarah Herlinger, who is the Director of Global Accessibility and Initiatives. She had been with Apple since 2003, where she started in education, where she worked to make all learning content accessible to all. Apple has a culture of believing that accessibility is not only a nice to have, a must have, but a civil human right for all. She has overseen all areas of accessibility from Apple, from voiceover to audio description and other areas. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you for inviting me back. I was lucky enough to be on the panel last year. So always a joy to be back around. And I think the big thing for us, while I'll get into some of the details, if I were to say it in a nutshell, it's that we're continuing to do all of the amazing things we were doing last year, and making sure everyone knows that those things aren't dropping off. So, if you kind of look at Apple's work in this arena in two areas, it's what we do with the Apple TV app and third-party partners. We're continuing, as always, we request AD from our partners for any of our content to add in. Definitely would give a shout out to Disney. Certainly the work that you guys have done, you've been great partners for years, and we've always appreciated how much you do put a focus on audio description. And we are always thrilled that from day one, we've been getting that material from you. So thank you very much for your work. Beyond that, there are many great partners out there who are doing a wonderful job of providing AD for us. If you ever find that something, you find it somewhere else, but you don't find it on Apple TV, please write to us at accessibility@apple.com and let us know. And we will always go back to our partners and try and suss that out, make sure that we get that material on our platform as well. And then the other half of what we do is Apple TV Plus. For anyone who's not familiar with that, Apple TV Plus features critically acclaimed Apple original shows and movies that are available on the Apple TV app across all of our devices. Our originals all support audio description in 9 languages. We support those everywhere that Apple TV Plus is available. So in over 100 countries, meaning you can make the choice as to which version of AD you want, regardless of where you are in any of those countries. So there's no sort of geographical limitation around copyrights and who's running what where. So we love sort of those situations where an American wants the French AD while they're in Spain or something, or in Japan or something like that. And that's a viable option. We also are providing AD in Dolby Atmos. That was something that was very important to us as we started Apple TV Plus, was to ensure that members of the blind community were getting an audio experience that was in parity with everybody else, as we know that the audio is the incredibly important part for many of the members of the blind community. So we deliver all of those in Atmos. We're also providing closed captioning in 41 languages, once again, available in every country that Apple TV Plus is available. And one of the other interesting things that we've done for years now, both in terms of our Apple TV Plus content, but also for others, if you're a Braille display user, you can get the closed caption track delivered through your Braille display. So it's basically going to media descriptions in the rotor, and you can choose between Braille, speech, or both as options. So making that more accessible to the deaf-blind community as well. And to give one specific shout out to an upcoming something, we have a movie that is launching on August 13th called CODA, which stands for Child of Deaf Adults. If you would like to have a show that isn't going to scare the bejeebies out of you and will likely just leave you either laughing or crying for the full 2 hours, it is an unbelievably beautiful movie that actually won the U.S. Grand Jury Prize at Sundance this year, as well as a number of other Sundance amazing prizes. And it's a beautiful movie. So I definitely encourage folks to check it out.
I can't wait to see it. As a friend of several CODAs, it'll be interesting to see that, because they're an unusual bunch of individuals having grown up culturally deaf, even though they're not deaf. And it amazing. It's a very poignant story of an incredible amount of love that this character has for her family, and a lot of trying to figure out her place in the world. And it's just so beautifully portrayed. So highly recommend it. I just want to clarify a few things for the viewing audience tonight. You said Apple TV Plus, which is your monthly subscription service, and earlier you said Apple TV. So is that what was formerly known as iTunes, where you can rent and purchase movies? Because that also
so now if you Yeah, now if you go on to, any of our devices, you will find something called the Apple TV app. And within that is where sort of the movies, television side of things moved out of iTunes and kind of where you would find all of your video material.
Because you offer thousands of titles and audio description to rent or buy also.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that would be through the Apple TV app. And we have we mark them all with AD and CC in the same way that we put out ratings and everything else. You can find it right up front on every title.
So since ACB the other night announced a new campaign to get up, I forget what it's called, but it has to do with fitness. One of the things that I've been wondering about is, are there any plans to create audio description for Fitness Plus?
That is a good question. I can't speak to anything being done. I can only speak to what's out there right now, which is they are not currently audio described. I would say a lot of the trainers work really hard to provide descriptions within the material. And I know I was actually just talking to a friend of mine who is a member of the blind community, who is an avid athlete the other day, who said that he has been using Apple TV Plus since day one and focuses on doing the treadmill, elliptical, biking, and rowing. And he's had great success with all of those. But it's a great suggestion, and I'm happy to go back to see if there's ways to augment what we're doing already.
Okay, great. And I also know that you have made use of blind consultants. I can't remember the gentleman's name right now, but on the movie C, he's a producer, I believe.
Yeah, Joe Strecce.
Thank you.
I think, our goal with our original content is to try and make sure that regardless of whether it's from the inception with the scripts and the ideas through the development and the filming to the marketing and then the final, how you're viewing it through Apple TV Plus or, the Apple TV app, that we are thoughtful about accessibility in all those levels. And so when we took on the television show C and wanted to make it, one of the things that was incredibly important to us was, first, authentic representation of the blind community. It was the first time there was a show where basically every character was a member of the blind community. And so it was a great opportunity to create a show that the mainstream world would be captivated by and excited and have all of those aspects that people love in shows with, villains and heroes and lovers and families and, everything. But do it all in a way to portray that, hey, that's the blind community, whether it's portrayed as 600 years from now or the world today, that the blind community is incredibly robust and vibrant and different. Everybody's got their own roles and they are people like everybody else. So we really wanted to have that authentic representation, and then as well, authentic casting and bringing in a lot of individuals in the community to just make sure that we did it right. And I would say Joe was a hugely pivotal part of that, bringing him in at the start and getting him engaged on literally every aspect of the making of the show, really was a huge part of the success that we've had.
And lastly, the text-to-speech issue.
I would say from our perspective, we are currently focusing on, live human being audio description. It's kind of where we are at the moment. I think, as some people have said, I think no one really knows where the future is going to go, but it's not where we are currently putting our focus. We like the way things are at the moment and the kind of AD that we're trying to put out to the world today.
Great, thank you. Next is, and Daniel, forgive me if I mispronounce your name ahead of time. Daniel Cosmerick, how did I do?
That's great.
So you are a seen, and I'm having a hard time memorizing all the bios, and unfortunately you went last. You are the senior manager of accessibility, no, the senior manager within the global product.
Global
division,
video supply chain.
Global video supply chain, where you work with post-production facilities, TV studios, creative agencies, and internal technology to enhance the content catalog of Amazon. Basically, you're responsible for making sure the content is there and meet the Amazon's quality standard. And if there's anything wrong with it, it's your fault. By the way, he wrote this. So I'm not saying it's his fault. I just want to state up front, he wrote it. So if there's anything wrong, it's Daniel Cosmerick's fault. He wrote that last line. Daniel, I know it's been a long day for you because I know you gave an hour and 15-minute presentation right before this, which is why I had you go last so you could sit down and relax and listen to what the others had to say. But Amazon currently, I believe, has the most titles, and Prime Video is a combination annual subscription and a rental and purchase to own service, along with provide an audio description for Imdb TV. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Carl, for the invitation, and thank you, everyone, for your discussions. I was furiously taking notes and ideas down. I think Amazon, Amazon in the physical world wants to be the everything store, and in Prime Video in the digital space, we want to also be the everything platform. And so we offer content from Amazon Studios through a Prime subscription, as well as content we license from other great studios as well. We offer the option to buy and rent content to expand our catalog even further, as well as we offer subscriptions through to alternative broadcast television and other type of content through our channels program as well. And then we also offer Imdb TV, which was a AVOD, or advertising video on demand service. So free video, free with ads last year. And so we're really trying to do everything with Prime Video. As you mentioned, we probably have the largest catalog of all the OTT services, as well as our goal is to have the largest audio described catalog as well. And so, again, if you notice audio described content on other services, we believe we probably have that title on Prime Video as well in some form or fashion, and we want to make sure audio descriptions are there as well. Yeah, I can tell you a little bit more about kind of our service and what we do. So Prime Video is available in 200 territories across more than 200 devices. One of the tenets we have within Prime Video is customers should be able to watch what they want, where they watch on the device of their preference. I have multiple devices at home, different brands, different manufacturers, and we want to make sure that it's a seamless customer experience across all of those different devices, and that includes for audio descriptions. One of the other things I think that's unique in the player is our player remembers you. So if you're watching a player, watching on a title with audio descriptions, and you change devices, even change manufacturers, our player will remember that your preference is audio descriptions, and start other titles with audio descriptions as well, if they're available. We talked a little bit about selection and Amazon's activity with audio descriptions. We launched audio descriptions in 2017, and with that, a commitment that all of our US-based Amazon originals going forward would have audio descriptions available in English. These are professionally produced, human-voiced audio descriptions available. We also work with all of our other third-party studios who provide content to Prime Video to track down audio description tracks and recover them and get them available on the service as well. And then in addition, I think the big question we've asking is, are we using text-to-speech as well? Yes, we looked at the velocity of how fast audio descriptions were being created. We looked at the very large back catalog of content, and we thought, if we were going to really achieve the vision of what our audio description program is within Prime Video, that every single title is described, and audio descriptions are generally as available as closed captions are, then we would need to disrupt how audio descriptions are created. And so we've been working on text-to-speech audio descriptions for about a year and a half. To date, we have over 4,000 text-to-speech tracks live on the service. We're continuing to learn and iterate on those and continue to expand and grow to make selection more available.
You mind if I ask you a few questions about the text-to-speech process?
Yes. Yes.
So I saw your CSUN presentation that you gave back in, I think it was March.
Yes.
And so first of all, I will tell you, and this is coming from me, because there are some people that are for text-to-speech within the blindness community and some that are against. So these are my point of view, not the American Council of the Blind point of view. As a deaf-blind person, I sometimes find text-to-speech hard to hear because there's no inflection and intent in the voice where a narrator can change the voice. So I worry about the prosody of the text-to-speech, the clarity of the text-to-speech for those who are hard of hearing. But the other thing is, when I saw your process, it looks like the writer does it all, writes the audio description, chooses the voice, and then publishes it. And I don't know that I want a writer doing the audio mixing if they're not trained in audio mixing, if we want to achieve, say, full surround sound. Or who's going to verify, or is your software, which is going between gaps in dialogue, also take into account that you don't need to cover up gunshots, because we are smart enough to know when we hear a gunshot being fired, that you don't need to describe that. That sort of. So those are just a couple of my thoughts. I do think text-to-speech is coming,
yep.
But I do think there's also a way to do it in a way that has a high level of quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think that's one of the fundamental challenges that we're facing and debating every day as we work on this project, right? Is how do we make sure that we keep the quality bar high while really kind of invent and simplifying in terms of how these are created. So to address the issue on quality, so yes, we have one person who kind of does everything, the writing and the descriptions and the time coding, and then directs the text-to-speech engine. But we have every single track before it's published on the service also goes through a human quality control review. So we are making sure that there is a second person involved in the process that reviews and detects those things that the writer may miss, as a person, right? The more iterations you do on anything, the better quality product there will be. I think the other thing is, yes, I agree. There can be things that machines can't detect. We're trying to simplify these things for the readers by using kind of ML logic to actually time code the track for the writer so that they can focus more on descriptions. But again, they can always override the machine's inputs. And so if they find that the machine has recommended descriptions over for gunshots or another important event, they can override that, and they can make sure that there's no descriptions over that as well.
How does the software deal with audio ducking?
Yeah, so that's the other piece, is the mixing. So the scriptwriter isn't actually doing the mixing. The mixing is automated as well. And so it's a separate process that is fully automated. You write the script and you get live feedback on the audio as you're writing it. But then eventually when it goes into mixing, that is automated as well. We definitely realize there as well that it's not as good as a human going through and mixing the track. But we think over time we can build improvements into the track to get it as close or as to human quality mixing in the future. The benefit of keeping everything automated, and that's one of the reasons why we're going fast and we feel a little bit more comfortable about going quickly, is all of our tracks are never finished. I think that's an important thing that we can do. We can very easily fix the script and then automatically revoice and remix the track. If the improvements in text to speech come, we can use new text to speech engines to improve the quality of the voicing. And as we're making improvements in the automated mixing quality process as well, it's very easy for me to take all 4,000 of those tracks and rerun them through the new enhanced improvement in the mixing technology to improve the mix as well.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So
Oh,
it's
go ahead.
definitely, we've definitely, I think broken the process down a little bit, which, at the beginning is going to, we may lose some of the fidelity that you get when, a group of people, work together in a studio and really go through multiple repetitions of something and iron it out. But over time, we think because we've broken it down, we can implement, improvements in each step and iteratively improve the process over the long term.
Have you done focus group for those who may have a dual sensory loss?
We have not done dual sensory loss. We initially did a focus group for just people who were blind or visually impaired, 200 customers, and they said that just the summary of the results were that 60% of people preferred human voiced audio description.
Okay.
81% of them felt text to speech was acceptable. And so, what we again are really trying to balance is the quality that you get with a premium human voice audio descriptions with just availability, and that's the tension that we feel like we're walking a fine line towards.
So, and what's your current policy? Because I see that you're still releasing, say, original content with
Yes.
human narration. So, what's your policy on deciding what gets human narration versus text to speech?
Yeah, so all Amazon originals will still be human narrated.
And if there are existing files out there with human narration, would you request those first before you do text to speech?
Yes,
I know of at least one show on your platform that was previously described on another streaming platform that has text to speech now.
Yeah, that's definitely our preference. And so before we submit anything with text to speech, we go look and try to find if it's available. Again, because we would then like to, get those files, or human voice, sorry, we would like to get those files from those studios and then redirect our, efforts towards other things that don't have audio descriptions available in the text to speech space.
Again, I want to state for the record that I'm not taking the position of ACB. There are many in the blind community that are excited about the expanded potential for an expanded library with access to audio description. And as you said, there are some that aren't in love with it. And that's because I knew you were going to be on the panel. I'm not trying to be hardest on you, but that I knew that if I didn't ask these questions, people would say, why didn't you ask these questions?
Yeah.
So
no, absolutely. And the feedback is definitely very appreciated, right? We are a year into this, and we're still learning along the way. And we come to these events to hear from, other panelists and customers and get feedback. We're not, we don't think we have all the answers. In fact, we're just asking a lot of questions right now. And I think, as we continue to ask questions, I think we'll hopefully be able to improve this to the point that it meets almost all customers' expectations. I don't think it may not meet everybody's. For some people, text to speech may never be acceptable, and that's okay. Again, we want to offer the options for customers to use text to speech or not. But again, our preference is always that human voice audio descriptions would be available as a first option for customers.
I guess the concern is that as text to speech becomes more prevalent, why would others even consider hiring human narrators?
Yeah, I think that's a legitimate concern. Again, we're not trying to replace it, but I think that's a business decision that each studio needs to make, right? Again, we don't want the trade-off to be between text to speech and human. That's not the trade-off we're trying to address. Really, the trade-off we're trying to address is between no audio descriptions and text to speech. That's really where we want to focus our.
And I will say,
attention.
even within the audio description on my committee, there are some that are very, very supportive of your approach. Yeah. And some that are not, but in my approach, it's coming. So if you do it, let's do it with quality control in mind.
Yeah, and we're still again we're looking at feedback, right? We started with an initial wave that kind of launched in Q4, and we're still gathering data and feedback, and looking to refine and improve our processes. So. Absolutely. We know that this is not perfect. There's a long way to go. And again, I think the one thing that I think about this technology is it's just so easy to kind of go back and reopen up tracks and improve them over time.
Well, even I enjoyed watching Columbo with text to speech the other night because hearing about his trench coat and disheveled hair. And that was interesting because I remember watching those shows as a kid, but I haven't seen them in 30, 40 years. And it was interesting that you went back and did Columbo. So I can appreciate the fact that it will give access to back catalog. But I think my concerns are more as a person with the dual sensory loss. And that's just something I hope that you consider, because even now when you talk to me, I'm not hearing every word you say, but you have enough inflection in your voice and I can put enough things in context that I can guess right more than I guess wrong. It's harder to do that when I'm hearing synthetic voice.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, I agree. There's, I think, a lot of improvements to come in synthetic voicing, but yeah, I think it will be a while before it meets the human quality.
But I am happy that you're looking at ways to get more audio description. So I want to end on a positive note. And I want to thank you for taking the time to answer some difficult questions, and hope I wasn't too hard on you.
Oh, no problem at all.
Great. So I want to thank all the panelists. In a minute, I will open it up to questions that Janet may have gotten. Some of the other things I was asked to think about with the panelists, and I didn't bring up because I didn't think of it at the time, was, is anybody and I'm just asking people to maybe write notes down, is anybody thinking of the use, say, of extended audio description or alternative audio description tracks for places where there are not, for instance, if you have a musical. So when people go to live theater, we get a pre-show with audio description before each act. And maybe you create a file that describes all the characters and what they're wearing in the scene, so that when we finally watch the movie with audio description, we know what's going on, stuff like that. Other things to consider is, I hope that there's something in the blindness community called a Marrakesh Treaty, where all the worlds in the country have agreed to share accessible literature and books and stuff like that to the blind community. And I think we need to change the paradigm of thinking that audio description is, a First Amendment issue, which I've heard from some, to a access tool like a wheelchair ramp, like a caption file. So I hope that all the streaming services, all the broadcast channels, all the cable services, all the creative content producers join together and maybe create and this is my wish list, by the way, create like a massive library of audio description files for people to access when they need them, so that you're not always dealing with all these decentralized silo media companies that don't, even within the company, sometimes the theatrical division may not know that the television division or that the home video division created audio description files even within each company. So those are a few things I would also ask to bring to people's attention. I have done more than enough talking. I want to hear from the consumers. I want to give them first, I do want to go back to Tom and Martha, because those are the only two I did not ask to give contact information. And if they wish to do so, I want to give them the opportunity to, you too, Daniel, did you give contact information?
I did not, but if you want to contact us about audio descriptions in particular, the best way to do so is audio-descriptions-feedback@amazon.com. That's audio.
Tom? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Audio-descriptions-feedback@amazon.com.
Tom, do you want to give a place where consumers can get in touch with you?
Sure, you can send an email to accessibility@comcast.com. And just want to clarify one thing that I said. We were talking about the difference between free and premium. So there's actually 3 tiers. There's the free version, which gives you access to thousands of hours of TV shows and movies, with obviously through ad support. For $4.99 a month, there's ad-supported access to the complete Peacock library, including live sports. And then for $9.99 a month is complete access to the Peacock library without ads. So there you go. Just wanted to clarify that one question that you asked.
Okay, thank you. And Martha, did you have any contact information you can share with the community at large?
I do, but it's going to take me a minute to find.
Okay, I'll come back to you.
We do have So basically, we have a phone number that's, I was just scrambling to find it. I apologize for not having it written down. We do have a phone number on the CBS website, which I can save for you. And I think it's a great idea. That's something we can easily, I assume, add specifically on Paramount Plus. So we have contact information for closed captioning inquiries. And, you know, when I saw your questions, that seems like a great thing to add to Paramount Plus as well.
So what I will do is I will email all of you individually and ask for you to send me whatever contact information you wish me to share with the community at large. And then Janet, who is our convention coordinator, will then send that out to all the participants in the convention. So in the next day or two, I'll be asking for your contact information. All of you give me whatever you want me to share, and I'll put it together in a file for Janet to send out to the community at large. All right, I want to, Janet, if anybody has any questions for any of the panelists, please email questions@acb.org. Janet, do we have any questions?
I do not at the moment, and I have been checking religiously, and I did make sure that I am on the question box, and I am, so I have not gotten any questions.
Well, maybe I didn't give
yet,
enough
but
reminders.
I think everyone did such a good job but having the handout will be wonderful, and I'll keep watching, and if I have any, I'll just jump in, Carl. Thank you.
So I want to give any of the panelists, if not, we'll wrap up because we've been on the call for a while, but I want to give any of the panelists an opportunity to say anything they wish they had said or anything they want to add. You all did a great job, by the way, and I'm thrilled with all of your commitment to accessibility and audio description. Okay, hearing none. Janet, before I wrap up, we still have no questions? Is anybody there? Did I lose you?
I'm asking her to unmute, Carl.
Can you hear me?
I'm asking Janet to unmute.
All right,
I'm sorry, I was just looking at a question. I did get a question, and it is from Roy Samuelson, and he wants to know what the all of you are doing as far as making sure that Academy Awards and awards are represented by people who are disabled. I'm not sure if that's really and as far as your employees and your constituency.
Anybody want to answer that for Roy, who is a
I think what he's trying to
himself?
make sure is that the voice talent is recognized. I think what he's getting at in his question is working on an Academy Award nomination or category for voice.
So I do know that Roy has been very instrumental in working with the Television Academy into accepting people into the Academy who are narrators, and the potential there to have blind individuals as blind narrators in the Academy and be part of the voting public. So he might be talking about inclusion at a much larger level than just voice narrators, if I had to guess, based on the work that Roy has been doing. And I don't know if anybody, I also know that ACB is currently working with the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, and starting next year, I believe that all pictures for the Best Picture nomination will have to have audio description. Does anybody here on the panel want to answer Roy's question about, I think, more inclusion and diversity within the ranks of...
And it looks like he's also asking about more disabled describers.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry, I had to kind of
No, please.
pull this together.
I was assuming what Roy asked,
Yep.
and I may have been wrong, so...
No. He's asking about eligibility for Emmys in particular and other awards for audio description. And then he's asking about the employing people with disabilities involved in audio description.
All right, well,
So that's been an
Roy, we
ongoing-
will take, I don't think any of the panelists,
What I will do when I get when I have the list, Roy, if you're listening, I will forward your question on to all the individuals here.
okay, great. Do you have any other questions, Janet?
I do not.
Okay,
I will say that, and I mentioned this briefly earlier, but for the questions that I can't answer, often the aforementioned Janet Ritz is the person to reach out to. So that would be our point of contact for questions such as those.
all right, well, thank you, everybody, for an amazing panel presentation. I want to thank all of you, ACB and the Audio Description Project. Look forward to our continued collaboration on creating accessible entertainment platform with audio description for all. And hopefully we'll see some of you back next year. Thank you, everybody. I hope everybody enjoyed this.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.